People say forgiveness is about character. It is not. Forgiveness is a transaction disguised as virtue. It is granted based on what the offender represents, not what they did. The same act produces radically different outcomes depending on who commits it. A junior employee makes a mistake and is labeled careless. An executive makes the same mistake and it is called visionary risk. This is not hypocrisy. It is not bias in the emotional sense. It is structural. Forgiveness does not operate on actions. It operates on status. Status is a compression algorithm. It reduces complexity by assigning assumed value to a person before any new information is processed. High-status individuals are interpreted through a lens of prior usefulness. Low-status individuals are interpreted through a lens of replaceability. This changes how violations are processed. When someone violates a norm, observers subconsciously ask a single question. Is this person more valuable to keep than to punish? If the answer is yes, the system bends. If the answer is no, the system tightens. Forgiveness is not mercy. It is cost-benefit analysis performed socially instead of consciously. High-status individuals do not avoid punishment because they make fewer mistakes. They avoid punishment because their mistakes are reframed. A mistake committed by someone with status is interpreted as complexity. A mistake committed by someone without status is interpreted as incompetence. This reframing is not intentional. It is automatic. Observers assume that high-status people operate in environments they themselves cannot fully understand. Therefore, outcomes that look wrong must have reasons they cannot see. Low-status people receive the opposite treatment. Their environment is assumed to be simple, so failure must be personal. This asymmetry means forgiveness arrives before judgment for one group, and judgment arrives before context for the other. Forgiveness is forward-looking, not backward-looking. What matters is not the damage done, but the damage that could be avoided, or value that could be extracted by keeping someone inside the system. High-status individuals represent future optionality, access, capital, influence, stability. Punishing them has downstream costs. Low-status individuals represent none of these. Removing them has minimal second-order effects, so the system forgives upward and disciplines downward. This is why scandals are survivable at the top and fatal at the bottom. The narrative is not they were wrong, but they are too important to lose. Intent is inferred from status. When a high-status individual causes harm, observers assume benign intent corrupted by circumstance. When a low-status individual causes harm, observers assume flawed intent revealed by action. The same behavior is read as miscalculation when done by the powerful, malice when done by the powerless. This is why apologies from high-status figures work even when they say nothing substantive. Their intent is already assumed to be acceptable. Low-status apologies fail because intent is already judged. Implications for money and status. Money does not buy forgiveness directly. It buys insulation from interpretation. Wealth increases status. Status alters how reality is processed. This is why legal outcomes, reputational recovery, and public narratives diverge so sharply across class lines. Forgiveness is not a moral phenomenon. It is a signal of hierarchy. And hierarchies protect their load-bearing members. If the system punished everyone equally, it would collapse. That is not an ethical statement, it is a mechanical one. Forgiveness at the top is not corruption, it is maintenance. The system forgives the powerful because it cannot afford not to. Every social system has a tolerance threshold for instability. High-status individuals are structural nodes. They coordinate resources, decisions, and narratives. Punishing them introduces uncertainty far beyond the original offense. So the system recalibrates morality to preserve continuity. Forgiveness becomes a stabilizing force, not a moral one. Punishment is a signal. When the system punishes someone, it communicates that they are replaceable. Low-status individuals are constantly punished because the system wants to broadcast abundance at the bottom. High-status individuals are rarely punished because the system wants to broadcast scarcity at the top. If elites were regularly destroyed, confidence in the system would degrade. Markets would hesitate. Institutions would stall. So forgiveness becomes a credibility mechanism. Morality is not the input. It is the justification applied after the decision has already been made. First comes the calculation. Does punishment cost more than forgiveness? Then comes the story. Redemption, growth, context, misunderstanding. These narratives are not lies. They are tools used to align public perception with structural necessity. Low-status individuals do not receive narratives because none are required. Their punishment stabilizes rather than destabilizes. The more visible a person is, the more their forgiveness must be explained. But explanation is not accountability. High-status individuals receive lengthy public reconciliations precisely because their continued presence must be justified. Low-status individuals disappear quietly because no justification is required. This creates the illusion that power brings scrutiny. In reality, it brings narrative management. Forgiveness is not hidden at the top. It is broadcast. Status determines not only outcomes but memory. The powerful are forgiven and remembered as complicated. The powerless are punished and forgotten as simple. This is why accumulating status changes not just what happens to you, but what is remembered about you. The system does not care about fairness. It cares about coherence, and coherence requires forgiving those who hold it together. Forgiveness is not given to the innocent. It is reserved for the irreplaceable.